Hey, I just sent you a video from Johnny Enlow. It's got nothing to do with the bulk of the other things that you and I talk about. This is more kingdom alignment, having to do with the church. And, as I listen to the whole thing, and I'm not expecting you to listen to it, there's just on the peripheral kind of spinning around my mind all these very familiar concepts that I've thought of before, some I haven't thought of, but I found it worthy of sharing. And I think one thing the church tends to miss is, like, let's take the crucifixion of Christ. I think often when we read through that very dark yet graceful history, right? Because it's the miraculous act of rescue on God's part, coming into our paradigm through the flesh, through Jesus Christ. But it was also very dark in the sense of what Christ experienced because of our rebellion, what he had to go through and what he had to sacrifice to rescue us. But, I've always thought that I think a lot of people, when they read about Christ being brought into custody and being whipped and being pierced for our transgressions and the thief on the cross and, all the blasphemy, the crown of thorns and the mockery. One thing I've always thought, and I've often thought about making kind of like a podcast on it, is I think a lot of people miss the fact that we're meant to identify that Christ did all that for all those people. When he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." He didn't just die for the thief on the cross and for the apostles that followed him up to that very dark moment. He died for the ones piercing him. He died for the one placing the crown of thorns on his head. He died for those that mocked him. And he even replaced Barabbas, the one who was a townsfolk who was a committed murderer and charlatan. So all the symbolism in that moment, he took the penalty for the murderer. He rescued the thief on the cross. He did it for those that pierced him. He did it for those that rejected him. The cornerstone that was rejected, the chief cornerstone that was rejected would become the chief cornerstone in the kingdom. But more specifically, as where the church is concerned, and what I think most people miss, I got off track a little bit, is that we do represent the one who mocked God. We do represent the one that pierced God. We individually represent the one that whipped God. And we also represent those that had the grace and the eyes to see, through God's grace, to understand that he is who he says he is, and that we cry out to him. We are the murderers that Christ paid the penalty for, to release us from our chains. And sometimes I think that is missed, in the sense that in Romans, 3, it speaks on how the law was given to shut every mouth of those who essentially assume that through their own righteousness they are found worthy. And I don't know, there's a multitude of different concepts that just peripherally spun around my head as I was listening to this entire thing. And I'm just sharing it. I'm not expecting you to listen to it. It's long. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. No pressure. Anyways, have a blessed day, my friend. Be cool.